Good morning, everybody. It is a gorgeous Saturday. I'm having difficulty remembering what day it is because it was a short week at work, and uh, yeah, I haven't worked really since Wednesday afternoon, so it's been a little bit crazy. We've had a wonderful Thanksgiving weekend out here in the greater Atlanta area. My friend David was in town for a few days, actually, basically a week. He got here Sunday, he left this morning. Excuse me. And we had a lot of fun gallivanting around. We saw Wicked on Thanksgiving Day. It was a lot of fun. If you have any thoughts about going to see it, go see it. And uh, we went shopping on a few things. I may have made a couple Black Friday purchases. I don't know yet. Excuse me. The cough is still lingering. It is what it is. It's just going to be here for a couple weeks, just because that's what happens every time I get sick. So if you hear me cough, I'm fine. Perfectly fine. I just have a little bit of cough suppression medicine that I am taking, and that's trying to help most of it. It only coughs when I talk. Let's see who has made it this morning. Good morning, Jen. Good morning, Joydy. And all the way from Sweden, good morning, Christina. Ooh, and my friend Stephanie from Quilting with Stephanie Stitches is here, as is my friend Steven from Bland Designs and the Idiot Quilter. Good morning, Jean, and my awesome friend Julie. Julie's here because she's trying to make sure that I get all of my paper piecing done. I'm pretty sure that's what she's doing. She's just babysitting. Good morning, John from Guys Craft 2. How you doing today? And good morning, Jeannie. So, excuse me. It's, like I said, it's been a fun weekend. Wicked was awesome, except for the fact that the movie theater we were in was like a million degrees. It was so hot I almost fell asleep. And it's an awesome movie and exciting, so I shouldn't be falling asleep. Good morning, Karen. So today I will be working on my homework, which is the remaining blocks from month one of Dragon Fruit. This is a block of the month program from Fat Quarter Shop. Uh, the I was told at one point the signups went down, but they're back up again, so they may have gotten more books or fabric or the foundation pieces, because these are really, really tiny um, log cabins. So I've made a few of them already. These are finishing at 4 inches, so I do not recommend making these the traditional method because they are really tiny. So they have given us foundation papers to work with. In fact, they gave us a whole book, and excuse me, it's not just this book that they gave us. They gave us a 6 inch size and a 12-inch size of the various blocks that we will be making in the kit. So there's a lot of stuff that's happening in this kit. I'm really excited for it, and yeah, there's a lot. There's a lot of piecing to do, but um, there was almost an accident. Okay, yeah, people speeding through the neighborhood. Good morning, Charlotte. So I'm going to switch over to my sewing setup. And I have already sewn piece 1 and 2 onto my papers because that's the one that I always make mistakes with. And everything looks good with here. There is a little bit of a shadow. Well, you can't see that here. But this is what I am starting with just to make it easier. And for when I do foundation paper piecing, it's just like color by number. You do everything 1, 2, or like the song from Sesame Street 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12. Okay, 13. So you just put all the pieces in order. Is not really with these. It's not really much different than when you were doing a traditional piece of a log cabin. It's just a little bit different, just because you have the papers in place. But conceptually, it's all the same. You're cutting out your pieces just a little bit bigger than if it was traditional. The great thing about the Fat Quarter Shop patterns is they tell you the size that you should cut. You can still cut them a little bit better or a little bit bigger than what it says. As long as it's bigger, it'll trim down. If it's smaller, you can't cut up bigger. Stephanie is asking an interesting question. Does anyone have snow? I am glad to say I don't. But my cousin posted a video in our family chat yesterday. They do up in Massachusetts, and excuse me, her dog has been having a fun time in it. And I'm like, that is why I don't want to go up there for Thanksgiving. So back to the project. After you get 1 and 2, you need to sew on line 3, but you have to create your 1/4 of an inch before you do that. So I pop a couple stitches so that I can fold on that line between 2 and 3. So as you see, there's a line folded between 2 and 3. And then you take any ruler you have. They make an add a 1/4 ruler. I just have my standard ruler. You put your 1/4 inch on the edge of the paper and slice. I can't slice on my sewing table, so I'm just going to shift this off to the side and slice it. And as long as it's roughly a 1/4 inch, you're fine. With some of the smaller pieces, you may want to go down to 1/8 of an inch. But as long as it's about a decent seam allowance, you'll be fine. So once you have that done, you take your piece 3, and then you can line it up against your 1/4 inch seam. And then I like to do some field tests because right here is the seam, and if I look on the other side, I've got plenty of room on this side. Right here is the seam I'm lining up. I've got plenty of room on this side. So that just helps me make sure that I have everything lined up. You're always going to do right sides together. That's a great thing for you to know. Again, that's the same thing with regular piecing. But the thing that tricks people up a lot is you're sewing on the paper side, so you can't see the fabric. So you have to kind of feel it to make sure it's not moving as you get it put into place. And you start a few stitches off, and you're going to sew a few stitches over. You're going to want your stitch length to be smaller than normal. I sew between a 1.6 and a 1.8 with foundation paper piecing. If you get too small, that means if you have to do an oopsie, you may not be able to recover. If you do too big, it makes it harder to rip the papers out. So you want something that gets it perforated enough to rip the paper, but not too much so that it's difficult to rip if you need to rip. And then you just sew on the line and go a couple stitches over. And this is where a thread cutter is really nice. Let's see who has snow going on. Um, Julie says it's flurries for them. Stephanie says she sent me a snow picture. I want to see this snow picture, and I am going to potentially share it with everybody, depending on how cooperative my computer wants to be. Let me make sure there's no sensitive information. Okay. So since I can do my screen shares, this is the picture that Stephanie just shared with me. That's gorgeous and also hideous at the same time. I love just like the clean picture of new snow. It looks gorgeous. I don't want to deal with it. So, yeah, you can keep that, Stephanie. Let's see. Julie says it's flurries. Yeah. Judy says, good morning from Northern California. No snow, but we've had rain. Patricia Lancaster says, no snow in Florida, lol. uh, Stephanie says they got some snow, but you can still see some grass. But her aunt an hour away is buried. Wow. And Karen says it's starting to snow there. Nancy Nancy is on a cruise in the Caribbean, so no snow. Why didn't you invite us, Nancy? Also, why are you in the chat here when you can be, enjoying the Caribbean? Uh, Steven says no snow there, but would probably get there. Would probably get before us. Okay, no snow there, but Stephanie would probably get before them, even though they have further north the effects of the lake. Lake effect snow. That's basically what he's saying. Holy cripes. Stephanie says her family in Erie, Pennsylvania got 32 inches and it's still coming down. That is a lot. Good morning, Colleen, who says good morning, Russ and everyone else. A lovely sunny day, which is today after so much rain this month. Wow. So now that we've gotten sidetracked, I have that one scene there. And just like every scene that you're going to do when you are doing traditional piecing, you are going to open it up and press it. And while you are opening it up, the good thing that you can do is kind of peek to make sure you are covering all of your seam allowances in the other side. Again, with the sizes that they suggest cutting, and even if you do a slightly larger, you're probably not going to miss your seam allowances. But if you're doing something with interesting angles, that is an important thing to check. And I'm just going to press this down. And then find number 4, which is right here. Need my glasses again. Nancy says that there's rocky seas going on, so she's just chilling after her hot rock massage. Okay, I can kind of accept it, but, if I was on a cruise, I'd want to be on the deck the entire time, probably. Judy says with all the rain they've been having, they have had slides in feather. Oh, that's not good. So again, now I'm doing number 4, so I need to pop the couple stitches in the seam. And I'm just popping until I can get to fold it. So you're not popping all the seams, you're just popping until the fold that you're going to do. and you're folding on the line. That was a really bad fold, Russ. You need to go back to third grade. Okay, that's better. So I folded on this line, which means you have to fold the entire thing. And again, I'm going to take my ruler, line it up on the 1/4 inch, and make my seam. And that gives you a nice straight edge to put the next piece on. The other thing that I have done is I have all my pieces in order. So number 13 is on the bottom, number 1 is on top, and I have them in each of the piles so they are all properly in order. So I don't have to think, is this the right size piece? I've already put them in order. The other good thing is this piece that I have added is approximately the same size as the piece before. So once you get past the first couple pieces, all you have to do is just make sure you're covering the piece before, and you know you're not going to miss a seam or you're not going to miss anything. And that only counts on these log cabin blocks, because if you're doing, again, funny angles, that makes it a little bit more difficult to figure out. But on these simple blocks with foundation paper piecing, you just have to line up and go with it. And again, I can just kind of push it open, and I see I have plenty of room. Yeah, with the family sending snow video, I was like, nope, I will refuse to deal with that. So now again, we just did 4, time to do number 5. Once you get to piece number 5, it's like traditional log cabin where they say you're going to sew on the seam that has two seams on it already. So I have this seam right here, and I have this seam right here. So number 5 is the next seam to do. I'm popping the couple stitches, folding it down, and trimming. The big difference with foundation paper piecing is you make your seam basically after you've sewn, instead of making as part of what you sew. Good morning, Donnell, who says good morning, or hey Russ, and all in the chat. So I'm going to line this up, and again, flip it over. Trust that I'm not moving too much. If you need to, you can peek underneath here to see if you have lined up or if you stayed lined up. I didn't feel any shifting as I shifted over. And again, sew on the line. It's not complicated. My fabric shifted like 1 thread in the moving, but that's not a big deal because, you know, when you're doing regular piecing, you tend to shift by about 1 thread. I am going to open this up. And then now here in the center, I have a perfect 1/2 inch square. And we're just going to continue with the rest of the piecing. Number 6 is next. And like I said, I put everything in the correct order so I don't have to think about it. As long as I'm doing everything in numeric order, it is going to work. So I hope everybody had an awesome Thanksgiving. Did anybody do anything exciting for Thanksgiving or Black Friday? Any good Black Friday shopping deals? I know I'm talking American Thanksgiving, so the awesome Canadians in my chat don't have to say, well, we had Thanksgiving like a month and a half ago. Like I said, we went to see Wicked on Thursday. We had Waffle House for Thanksgiving dinner. Uh, the friends that we normally do Thanksgiving dinner with, they weren't around. So we were like, okay, yeah, whatevs. Waffle House works. Make sure we tipped our hardworking wait staff. Because I know at Waffle House, they aren't given a choice as to whether or not they're going to work. Because when I was working at Waffle House, every wait staff person was required to work on Thanksgiving and Christmas and Easter and the other holidays. Usually you got a little bit better tips, but because all hands were on deck, sometimes you didn't get um, an equivalent extra set of tips. Because you've got fewer tables, but you're working harder, so and you're constantly busy. I do not miss those days. And Wicked was a awesome movie. I've seen the musical a couple times here in Atlanta, and I know the soundtrack front to back. I was excited that they fixed one complaint that I had about the musical because I was like, that doesn't make any sense. If you have seen the musical, you know that when Elphaba and Nessa Rose arrive at Shiz, they are intended to go together. And Madame Morrible says that she is going to take Nessa Rose under her wing and care for her as her like pseudo guardian. And then they decide to say, hey, who's going to volunteer to room or to let Elphaba room with them? And I'm like, if Nessa Rose and Elphaba are supposed to be going together, and Elphaba and Nessa Rose already had a room together, if Nessa Rose is taken out of that room, shouldn't Elphaba basically have a room to herself? I mean, that's kind of what would happen like here in the US in college. They don't admit you if they don't have a room for you. So I was like, why is that going on like that? And they made a slight change to the opening scenes with that and corrected that. So I was really excited that they did that. I'm like, they fixed a plot hole. Steven said that he saw a news program that says the tips you leave on credit card may not always go to the server. Sometimes the business takes it and the server gets nothing. I mean, yeah, I've heard that happening. There was a episode of Kitchen Nightmares, that Gordon Ramsay show, and it was a restaurant in the Phoenix area where the owner took the tips from the salesperson. Um, that's wrong if that happens. I feel like they should be able to report that because tips are, um, Well, okay. Knowing what may be happening next year, I'm shutting my mouth right now because I've heard visions of what people may or may not be happening, and I do not approve of what may or may not be thinking about. I used to make sure I only tipped in. Well, Waffle House. It used to be only Waffle House. From Waffle House, you can only pay in cash, and uh, back then you had no issues getting your cash to your wait staff. Now that Waffle House takes cash or takes cards, you don't always know what's happening. But I like to think that Waffle House is fair, although it's probably less. Well, I'm sorry, it's more fair for taxes, less fair for the server. Because if you pay with your card, you are going to be, or all of those tips are actually going to be claimed on the salesperson's paycheck. Whereas if you were cash, we did not necessarily claim all of our cash tips in our weekly pay because for some reason it impacted our weekly pay if we added that we got a bunch of tips. I never quite understood what was going on. And I lost count of where I was. Okay. I just did 9, now I'm on 10. Okay. But yes, it's always betterer to tip in cash if you are able to, because that helps it it gives the salesperson the money right then and there. They don't have to wait until their paycheck. Which, having worked at Waffle House and was living paycheck to paycheck, that was necessary at times. But two, it just makes sure that um make sure that they get it. We are well, the world is becoming a very digital cash society. I have seen many posts that complain about that. Some of it is lack of traceability, but then I'm like, or I'm sorry, it's over traceability because it just means it's harder to pay people under the table. But then there's also all of the fees that are associated with taking a non cash transaction. And it just, there's a meme that says if you have a $20 bill at the end of 10 transactions, you still have that same $20 bill. And if there's a fee on top of it, you're going to have significantly less at the end of 10 transactions. And I'm like, technically, no, because you still have to add back to it. So you're still going to be having each transaction be $20, but each person has to add an additional, I'm going to say $3 in transaction fees, which does mean that you have lost value in that $20, and it just goes to the credit card processing. The fees that we get charged are just ridiculous. Good morning, Janice, and good morning, Candace. How did that happen? I have a couple stitches that did not stick. Steven says he has the same amount of money in his wallet that he had during COVID because he very seldom pays cash. I, a couple years ago, sold a bunch of Magic the Gathering cards to a friend of mine's son. They were like 20-year-old cards. And I stopped playing years ago because I bought them when I was dating Josh. And when we broke up, I didn't have anybody to play with. I wasn't very good at it anyway. So he gave me the value for the cards in cash, and I just put it in the drawer here. Every now and then, I was opening up the drawer and I'm like, why do I have cash? Oh, yeah, because of Patrick. And for a while, I was paying for Riley's daycare in cash because it was $20, so I had a $20 bill. I just said, here's the cash. It made it easier. And then when her daycare increased, I was like, well, I'm not gonna pay cash because I would give them cash. They would have to give me cash back. So it's been sitting in the drawer. And I'll pull something out every now and then. And one of the visits, David was like, why do you have this green stuff? And I have to remember to explain to him every single time that it's from like 3 or 4 years ago. I have one more on this, and I press that fold out. It was very much a pain in the neck living as a cash only user back in the day. So I'm like, yeah, I don't want to do it again. Last seam. And open it up. And I have another log cabin. I have not trimmed this last edge. I don't normally trim until I have the blocks ready to be sewn to the next block. That way, if they're handled, if they're fondled, or anything else, they don't tend to fray on the edges. So I just leave them like this. So if I get a little bit of fraying on here, it's not going to bother me. And when it is time to go to the neck to start sewing them up, you just line up on the trim line and cut around, and then you can line them up. And they even give you a nice sew line here where it says the do not trim on this line. That's actually the sew line to sew your pieces together. So now that I have one, it goes with this one and also this one, which is a courthouse stair. And it looks different from a courthouse stair because of the way the fabric placement is. But it is a courthouse stair on the pattern. But if you just use your fabrics in a different way, you get a different pattern. So I need to make 4 of this style because I've already got 4 of each of the others. And then I have 2 more styles to make after this, and then my homework will be done. So going on to the next one is just the same steps. Find number 3. Oh, I accidentally grabbed 2. Make sure you only have 1 paper. So has anybody else seen Wicked? Does anybody else have the want to see Wicked? There were a lot of Easter eggs. The really cool thing was the font that they used in the credits and stuff. Not spoiling it, just go watch it. It's just I have to wait until next year to hear my favorite songs in the musical. I mean, there are songs that I love in Act One, like "Dancing Through Life" and um, "Defying Gravity." Everybody loves "Defying Gravity." But my go-to songs are in Act Two, uh, "As Long as You're Mine," and "No Good Deed Goes Unpunished." I have to sit there and sing the song in order to know, or sing the lyrics in order to remember what the song title was. I love "As Long as You're Mine" because it's that whole it's just that sweet moment between people and or between the characters, and then "No Good Deed." It's a really awesome song for the turning point. Steven says he loves popular. He's gonna be popular. Scrunchen says good M9 earn 8G. Morning, Russ and everyone. I was distracted by a video of a porcupine eating corn, or was it a hedgehog? Ooh, videos of animals eating is so cute. And Charlotte says she wants to go see Wicked. Ticket prices are ridiculous. And then I got a large popcorn and a soda, which they're the green Sprite flavor that they have in their machines at AMC was delicious. But that was $19 for a popcorn and a soda. I'm like, this is why I don't go to the movie theater. We also was introduced to a new television show. The show was on Max, which means you have to have that streaming app to watch it. It is called Humans versus Hamsters. It is in the style of those 80s competition shows like American Gladiators and that. And basically, they are pitting humans in various tasks against hamsters doing the exact same tasks. So, like, they have a giant hamster wheel that humans have to run across. That one is one of the humans versus humans. That's usually tiebreaker one. But like in some of the episodes, you had to climb through hamster tubes, and then once you get through the hamster tubes, you had to run the hamster wheel enough times around to get a rocket to the moon. Um, the obstacle course at the very end is hysterical, and like just watching this, it was a lot of fun. There's 8 episodes, and I have gone through all 8 episodes, and I'm like, there better be a season 2. Not that I know how many people are going to watch it besides me and a handful of my friends. But it was put together really fun, and that's all that matters to me. For shows like that, it's like I don't care if I'm, learning all of this, um, like hamster trivia or whatever. I just want to be entertained. If I want to learn something, I will pull up some of the, nerd channels on YouTube that I subscribe to. Which I subscribe to way too many nerd channels. Hello, Melanie, who says, "Hey, peeps." Just to let you know, not a fan of peeps. Those marshmallow things, they're disgusting. I swear, those peeps that you buy in the store are the same peeps that were there for like 10 years. They taste stale. And it's marshmallow, which is sugar, covered in sugar, which is sugar. It's just too much. Now I have Dancing Through Life going through my head. I am going to have to go listen to the soundtrack after this. Because I cannot play it while on live, otherwise I will get, YouTube very upset at me. And I don't want the YouTubes upset at me. And as you see, they go faster when I'm not talking too much about them. And as I said, I'm cutting all of these with my standard ruler. You can buy the add a quarter ruler. I have an add a quarter ruler somewhere in the house. I just don't remember what I did with it. But not all the gadgets are required. Sometimes the gadgets are just fun, or they do make it easier. Because with the add a quarter, you don't have to think about where the quarter inch is. It is just right there. It's got the lip. And it makes it easier if you're just learning. But if you don't know if you're going to enjoy it, I don't see the point in buying the tool. And then, if you've already learned how to do it with a regular ruler, then why do you need to buy the tool later? And with foundation piecing, there is waste. I've got a pile over here of the scraps, but the waste is what you are, it's the cost of perfect points, is what I call it. And as you get better, you can cut with less waste in some cases. But I would rather have the ease of cutting very quickly. I am running out of bobbin. Let's see if I can make it to the end of the seam. Yes. I would rather have that extra little bit of... Okay, that's a little bit closer to or longer from bobbin chicken, but it still works. I'd rather have the cost of the perfect point than risk not quite making it. Because if you don't quite make it, that's more waste. I found out yesterday that there is a difference between, or I'm sorry, not difference, that brother makes two different size bobbins. And I bought the wrong size. We were at a machine and thread shop, and they had they had tons of stuff. It was like a kid in a candy store. And we go over to the wall of notions, and I saw bobbins. I was like, ooh, I need bobbins. I was looking for an extra one on Thanksgiving Day because I need to do a little bit of straight line quilting on a table runner, and I didn't have a bobbin made. So I was like, let me just buy some bobbins. So I bought 3 packs because you can never have too many bobbins. And I got home, and this morning I went to go wind the bobbin, and the center spool of the bobbin was too tight to fit on the bobbin winder. I'm like, what gives? And I did a little bit more looking, and it's a different size bobbin. It is like 9.2 millimeters versus 11.5 millimeters high. So I'm like, okay, do I drive all the way back to Alpharetta and try to process a return, or do I see if anybody at Stephanie's retreat needs one or uses that type of bobbin? And if they use that type of bobbin, I can give it. So my initial instinct is, let's see if anybody at Stephanie's retreat uses that size bobbin. So if you're going to be at Stephanie's retreat and you need some bobbins, and you use a Class L machine, I think it's called, or a Class L bobbin, I think that's what it's called, then I got some bobbins for you. Good morning, M. How you doing? Melanie said, nope, that's not it. Yeah. And if nobody wants them at Stephanie's retreat, I may just end up giving them away on the channel, because sometimes just processing a return is just too much work. I never understood why we had so many um, different bobbin sizes. Candace says her Juki uses Class L, and I believe Candace is going to be at the retreat. So if Candace wants some bobbins, I got some bobbins for you. Bring a sample bobbin just to make sure they are the right size. But according to my research, it's that same size. It was amusing because, as I said, it was a bunch of thread at that shop. So David had bought some glide to use on the long arm, and he's like, "Oh, I'll just buy some pre-round bobbins." He ended up buying Class L bobbins instead of Class M, which is what the long arm takes. I knew you did that. So I was like, this isn't gonna fit. It was also nice seeing the newer versions of some of the machines I have. And I'm like, okay, yeah, that's really nice. And then finding out how much more it costs than what I paid for the machines that I have. I'm like, no. Like the upgrade to this machine costs 2.5 times what I paid for this machine. I'm sorry, 2.5 times what I paid for this machine and my travel machine. I know machine shops, they can give a discount, or I'm sorry, a perceived discount, because a lot of the price is, or a lot of the MSRP is shop profit. So some shops will give a little bit of a discount in order to sell a machine. But that's still ridiculous. And that's why I tell people, buy a machine that fits in your budget, that has the features you want. You don't have to have the fancy machines, especially as they're increasing in price. You may want a last year's model machine that has the exact same features. I kind of want to go look up to see what the new machine of this has that this one doesn't, and be like, okay, I really didn't need to worry about that. One more seam on this. And tomorrow starts Vlogmas for those of us YouTube creators who are participating. Um, Bad news for anybody who enjoyed them. I will not be doing dad jokes this year. But I do have some fun stuff scheduled for Vlogmas instead. I won't tell you, but it does require just a little bit of thinking. So tomorrow morning you will get to see the awesome stuff that I have going on. I haven't figured out everything that I'm going to be doing for Vlogmas, but it's going to be um, a fairly low key Vlogmas this year. I don't want to do a lot of stuff going on. I did get the other block completed, so I've got 2 of the 4, and then I've got a couple others that need to be done. So yeah, Vlogmas, it's going to start tomorrow for me. I will be opening up the Missouri Star Advent box, and I think that's probably just going to be it unless folks start to tell me, hey, why don't you add this to your Vlogmas? Candace says she wants to buy an embroidery machine next year, just need to secure employment first and find somewhere to put it. Finding somewhere to put it is the hard part. I kind of want a serger because I have done a couple projects that would have been easier with a serger, but I'm like, I don't have a place to put it, and I don't want to have to put this away to take another machine out. M says he loves to see those fancy machines tutorial videos, but never see anyone really using those fancy features. That is a very good point. I have tons of stitches on here. I've used the straight stitch. 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 I have used a couple zigzag stitches, and I have shifted the needle a couple millimeters or a couple portions of a millimeter because I have learned when I do my machine binding where the needle position should be in order to get the best alignment with everything. So I've done that, but I can probably do the exact same thing with feet. It's still a pretty machine, and I have used the alphabet stitches recently, but that's only because I needed to have a custom label for, or I needed to have a certain label for my quilt entry at the quilt show this past year. But yeah, I could have spent a lot less money, but the light brightness. Let me switch over to my the light brightness down here on some of the lower priced machines is not there, but you could always buy additional lights to put under here. Like if I turn this off, you can see how bright the light is. So I really love how much light this one gives. And I basically spent a couple of $1,000s more just for the lights. Don't necessarily need this ring. My travel machine is like, I think it's like an $800 retail price machine. And it's basically this machine, but lightweight. It doesn't have a button to do the self threading. I have a manual lever on it to do the self threading, but like I said, I'm happy with both machines. One day I will hopefully get a couple more of those. What are those things called? Features used. We'll see. Laura says that she is super late but wanted to say hi, everyone. You're never officially late, but we are about to wrap up. Replay is better than no play, so there is that. So I'm going to wrap it up here. I'm going to go take some more Dayquil to alleviate this cough. And yeah, start getting ready for Vlogmas. So I hope you guys have a wonderful rest of your day. Toodles!